Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining me. My name's Bevani, and today I'm going to talk to you about flute care and flute maintenance. So we're going to start with your flute rod. So hopefully your flute came with a handy-dandy little flute rod. And this thing has a couple functions. So if you look at the very end of the rod, there's one end that should have a little hole in it. The other end, there should be a line all around the rod. So with that line, you take your flute head joint and put that end into the flute head joint and check out the flute embouchure hole here. And that line should be right in the middle. And that just tells you that the cork is in the correct place and your flute has the right intonation. And speaking about intonation, last week I talked about how to put your flute together, and I didn't mention the variations you can do with pushing your flute all the way in versus pulling it further out. So a trick I tell all my students is to think of a big instrument in an orchestra. So what's the biggest instrument you can think of? You'll say a tuba or a cello. So those instruments are very low pitched, low sounding. And that's how I remember, when you pull your flute further out, you're gonna become lower, you're gonna become flat, or lower in pitch and intonation. If you push your flute all the way in, what's the tiniest instrument? A piccolo, you're gonna become higher. So generally you want your flute, it will depend on how you play and the intonation of your own flute, but I would say like a pinky length away, about that much, that far out, okay? And that should give you better intonation. Of course, it's going to be important to check with the tuner. So this is something that every musician should have. You buy a little tuner, they're $5 online, and you check your intonation. Okay, back to the flute rod now. Now the other end has this little hole here, and that is where your flute cloth, your cleaning cloth goes. So if your flute did not come with a cleaning cloth, I recommend going on Amazon, searching flute cloth. And mine is like a silky material. My boyfriend asked me last week when the last time I had it cleaned, and actually that just reminds me, I should probably throw this in the washing machine because I've never done that yet. And I'm cleaning it every day. So every time you practice your flute, after you're done, you get your cleaning rod and you clean out the spit. Lovely. Also super important that you put it through the body of your flute, right? We're trying to keep the pads. If you look underneath your keys, you'll see little cloth pads. Those are the most important part of your flute. We want to keep those dry and maintained well. If they start to stick out or poke out, you're not going to be able to push down your key all the way, and this will affect the tone or make it airy. If for some reason you can't get a note out, it probably means there's something happening to your pad. Another important fact about flute care is to always set your flute down on the opposite side of the keys. So set the flute down, because like I mentioned before, your keys, your pads are the most important part of the flute. And when those get damaged, then you can't make your sound. So often for kids, if you're a young flute student out there, you like to throw your flute around, roll it on your legs. I see everything in my lessons, and it just becoming a little bit more aware, a little more conscious. It is delicate, and you don't want to have to spend money taking it in all the time. Okay, so I can't reiterate this enough, that your flute pads and keys are the most important part of your flute, and keeping those maintained will enable you to play the best you can. Sometimes your keys will get sticky, so a little trick for that is to buy cigarette rolling paper. It was really funny the first time I did this because I've never smoked cigarettes, and I went into a smoke shop and asked for cigarette paper. So anyways, you want to grab your cigarette paper and place it underneath the key that's sticking. Okay, and just give it some nice pressure. And then remove it, and hopefully that will help with the sticky pads. Finally, flute maintenance, getting it repaired and looked at once a year is what I recommend. So go to your local music shop, or if there's a flute specialist in your town or city, that's the best. They specialize in this instrument. They'll know how to play the flute, which really helps. And you know, after you play for a year, little things come undone, get loose, or like I said, the pads either get too wet and you need to replace them. And sometimes you don't even notice because you play every day that something went wrong. So again, if you have that chance to bring it in, have a specialist look at your flute. That is the best way to keep your flute in good condition. So thank you for joining me. Again, I will be hosting these flute tutorials every Friday, giving you tips and tricks. Please feel free to leave comments below if there's anything you'd like to learn, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.